Hello and welcome to the 2024 Summer Movie Roundup, where I review a bunch of films from this summer. Buckle up! Alien Romulus, which is a new film that just came out. It's directed by Fede Alvarez, director of Don't Breathe, and the Evil Dead remake, and also that Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movie with Claire Foy. Anyway, Alien Romulus was a good film. It was very well made, and I thought it looked great. It's hard to talk about because I don't want to spoil anything. This film just came out after all, but I would really recommend it. I definitely enjoyed it more than Alien Covenant. At times I thought the characters made dumb decisions, but it wasn't too bad to where it ruined the movie. Like when they were sneaking past all the phase huggers, and the dude starts talking into his headset. Dude, shut up. Alien and Aliens are two of my favorite films, of course. I would say Alien Romulus has more in common with the film Alien, leaning more toward the sci-fi horror genre, with obviously updated special effects that fit today's time. The effects in this movie were absolutely fantastic, from the practical effects to the CGI effects. It all looked great. The floating in zero-G was great, looked very convincing. The cinematography throughout the film was great, both the lighting and the framing of everything. I really liked the set design as well. Overall, this is a really great science fiction horror film. I definitely recommend you check it out if you like this sort of thing. It reminded me of the film Prey and how much I enjoyed that film. Overall, I would definitely recommend it. I give it a 3.5 stars out of 5 stars, or a 7 out of 10. Another film that came out recently that absolutely no one saw except for me is Harold and the Purple Crayon, starring Zachary Levi, who gives an absolutely fucking terrible performance in this film. The Harold character sucks. There's absolutely nothing likable about him at all. He is a child in a man's body, and there's just nothing less appealing than that. But he just wants to make everybody happy. No, it's not funny, it's not charming, and it's just obviously trying to be Barbie, the film Barbie, except that movie was actually kind of funny and had an edge to it with the PG-13 rating, whereas here this is so sanitized and just bad. It's made for like really little kids, I guess, like kids who don't speak yet, like babies basically, who don't know they're watching a bad movie. The story follows a drawing in a book named Harold, who comes to the real world looking for his narrator, and he is accompanied by Moose, played by Lil Ray Howery, and Porcupine, played by Tanya Reynolds. The film also stars Zooey Deschanel, Jermaine Clement, Alfred Molina as the narrator. What the fuck? Moose and Porcupine in the book are actually a moose and a porcupine, but when they enter the real world, they just become people. Probably because they didn't feel like doing the effects for the entire movie. That would cost too much money. So instead, whenever Moose gets startled or scared or whatever, he turns into a CGI moose for a couple of seconds, just randomly in the film. It's so bizarre. This film actually had a decent amount of production value, like the effects looked polished, and there was a pretty huge cast involved with this film, considering the subject matter. The Zooey Deschanel character is this concerned mom who lost her husband, and she's taking care of her son, but her son just keeps going toward Harold and his purple crayon, and Harold is basically ruining her life with the purple crayon. She loses her job at some point. Spoilers. Yeah, I'm spoiling Harold and the fucking purple crayon. She loses her job because Harold and Moose cause a fucking mess at her work, and then her son's like, oh, don't worry about it, you didn't like that job anyway. It's like, how the fuck is she gonna pay for like anything or like buy food? Like she needs a job, and that they never resolve that. Like I don't think she gets another job by the end of the film. She's just jobless at the end, just collecting unemployment. There's two detectives chasing Porcupine and Harold and Moose the whole film, but at some point they just drop out of the film and they're not even part of it. And Jermaine Clement is this librarian character who is basically supposed to be like the businessman from Barbie. He's this cynical guy who doesn't have a good writing career. Instead, he works at a library. So he wants Harold's purple crayon so he can create a fantasy world where he can live in because he hates his real life. Zooey Deschanel's character is probably the most relatable character in the whole film because she was honestly genuinely concerned about her son going out with this fucking weird dude. He just paints their house purple one day. She seemed annoyed, but I guess what's she gonna do, right? The guy's got a purple crayon. Now, this is a relatively harmless film. It's a terrible movie, but it is harmless, and it's hard for me to just get mad at it. That's why I'm going to give this film a 1.5 stars out of 5 stars, or a 3 out of 10, just because it's harmless. Another film I saw was Trap. My overall impression of this film was that it was really dumb, but I surprisingly found it entertaining. One thing you can say about M. Night's films, there's certainly a lot to talk about. It involves a serial killer who is taking his daughter to a concert, but then it's revealed the whole concert is actually a trap to capture the serial killer. First of all, it's implausible that the police would carry out the events depicted in this movie. To lock down an entire concert and just keep everyone from leaving, it's just so implausible. There's so many people there. The dialogue in the film is cringeworthy at points, especially from the daughter character. The entire movie is filled with absurd sequences and events, especially toward the end. In the trailer, there's a scene where a man informs Josh Hartnett, who plays the serial killer, that there's this sting operation to capture him. However, it's so puzzling why this seemingly random guy would reveal such crucial information and then proceed downstairs with him to the t-shirt room or whatever that was. It doesn't make any sense. And then his daughter has her friend there, and she's with her mom, and her mom is trying to talk to Josh Hartnett about getting the girls to be friends again. These scenes are really corny, and also everything is center frame just because it's supposed to make you feel on edge, or maybe it's supposed to put you in Josh Hartnett's perspective. I don't know. There are some intriguing ideas and sequences here that I thought were fun. I particularly liked Josh Hartnett's performance in this film. Unlike other films that come out, at least M. Night Shyamalan films try new things and take risks. They're original ideas, they're not based on some kind of IP or any kind of franchise. It's not a superhero movie. It's something different, which I really appreciate and respect. I was also intrigued by the premise and the concept of the film. Even though I found it absurd, I also thought it was entertaining, and it doesn't have to be realistic. If you find it enjoyable while you're watching it, then ultimately it doesn't matter. They really captured the feeling of a concert and that there were a lot of people there. M. Night Shyamalan's daughter in the film, who plays the pop star, did well performance-wise, but sometimes, actually a lot of the time, her scenes felt monotonous because it was just like watching a concert in real time, which gets pretty fucking dull. So this is an odd film to talk about without spoilers, so here we go. I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to keep it brief. If you want to skip, basically what happens is Josh Hartnett rigs this competition so he gets to go backstage with the pop star and then holds the pop star hostage so that he can escape in the limo with her. Josh Hartnett's like, okay, you could drop us off on the corner, and the pop star's like, no, we're gonna drive to your house, which, why would she do that? And then she's like, oh no, I'm gonna come inside with you and meet your family. Then she steals Josh Hartnett's phone, which controls the room that this guy he has locked up is in. Like, he could release gas that will kill him or something. So she steals his phone, then she goes on Instagram Live or something and starts asking everyone on her Instagram, like, hey, we're trying to find, like, a house next to a blue sign or whatever. And it's just, like, it's so ridiculous at that point. When he grabs his daughter's bike at the end, that was so silly. The police had him restrained. They would not let him just, like, oh, I'm gonna crouch down and, like, play with my daughter's bike for a little bit. And, of course, he grabbed a piece from the bike that he used to loosen his handcuffs, and there was no one in the back of the police van with him on the way to jail. Isn't he supposed to be one of the most dangerous serial killers in the country, at least? If you're looking to nitpick this film, you could absolutely rip it apart, but I would consider it one of M. Night Shyamalan's more entertaining films as of recently, though not as good as his earlier works, of course, like The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. I did prefer this film probably to Old and Knock at the Cabin. I'd rate this film a 5 or a 6 out of 10 or a 3 out of 5 stars. It's very flawed, though. It's not a glowing recommendation. The next film is Twisters, a sequel to the 90s film Twister, which starred Helen Mirren. Not Helen Mirren, fuck. Helen Hunt. And Bill Paxton. Rest in peace. Twisters is directed by Lee Isaac Chung, who directed Minari. And it stars Daisy Edgar-Jones, Glenn Powell, and Anthony Ramos, or Ramos. For a big budget movie, I was not expecting a realistic depiction of the internet, but that being said, Glenn Powell has millions of subscribers for documenting tornadoes on YouTube. The movie presents tornadoes as a common occurrence as well, with multiple tornadoes happening constantly, like just F5 tornadoes just happen every 20 minutes or so. The movie is implausible in how it depicts a lot of things. I think the strong director and cast definitely elevated the material a bit and made what could have just been a really dumb disaster movie into something with a bit more class. Glenn Powell's performance alongside Daisy Edgar-Jones is noteworthy. Daisy Edgar-Jones is known for Normal People, which I haven't seen, but I heard it's really good. Glenn Powell is good in Top Gun Maverick. That was really his breakout role. And he's really good in the film Hitman, which just came out on Netflix a couple months ago, I think. The film features some impressive special effects and really cool, set pieces, I thought. One scene where a rodeo and a large motel are destroyed by a tornado. That stands out for its really cool special effects, and I especially like that large set, tons of debris scattered around. Overall, the film is pretty entertaining. It has a good pace and a lot of production value. I mean, I haven't seen Twister in a long fucking time, but I remember Twister pretty well. I probably should have rewatched it, but I got better shit to do than rewatch Twister. So yeah, I'd give Twisters 3 stars. I recently watched the film Didi, directed by Sean Wang. The lead actors in this film are really good. Most of them are child actors, but their performances weren't distracting or anything like that. Except for the lead's love interest character, I didn't think she was great. But aside from that, the lead actor, Isaac Wang, delivered a very raw and compelling performance alongside Joan Chen, who played his mother, who was also really great in this film. I liked the performance of the sister as well, played by Shirley Chen. The cinematography and the editing were top-notch, and the overall production value of the film was impressive. It feels really polished and well-made. The film is a great coming-of-age story with the focus on kids, and it's reminiscent of films like mid-90s, especially with that skateboarding angle, which I really liked in this film. It did have a different take on it. It didn't just feel like I was watching mid-90s again. It also portrays the internet in the early 2000s and how young people interacted using blogs and Facebook and making dumb videos on YouTube. It beautifully portrays the ups and downs of growing up and the way people come in and out of our lives in a really natural and realistic way. Overall, the film really resonated with me. It's well crafted, and I would basically recommend it to anyone. I didn't find it to be a groundbreaking film. It's just a solid coming-of-age story with both funny and heartwarming moments. So I would give Didi 3.5 stars out of 5 stars. It's definitely one of the standout films I've seen from this year, and I hope you tune in next summer for the 2025 movie roundup if I decide to do that. I don't know if I will.